You're watching the Forefront Church video podcast. And wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. How's everybody doing this morning? How many of you, by show of hands, on your day off, you're the kind of people who you just want peace and quiet and calm? Show of hands, all right? For some of you, on your day off, you're like, what's a day off? You want to have adventure, you want to go do those things, you want to go jump out of airplanes, and you just want to have all kinds. That's not me, okay? When I have a day off, I want to be able to relax and have calm and not deal with anybody else's stuff. And every Friday, our staff has their day off, so that way we can get a weekend, Friday and Saturday, since we work on Sundays. And so we have our day off, and it was a few months back, as summer was coming to a close, that I was enjoying my Friday off. Our older girls had gone to school, and our youngest daughter was running around the house, and I didn't really care what she was doing because no noise was being made. And my wife was upstairs teaching online. And my daughter, youngest one, comes running and says, Daddy, I want a snack. Now, if you're a parent, you know that a snack doesn't mean, for you guys who are not parents, you think, oh, they need a snack, they're going to consume it, they will throw away the trash, and they will then go along their way. No, that's not what a snack is. A snack is when they want some food, they're going to take one bite, they're going to set it in an obscure place, and one day you'll find it covered in ants or roaches because they never ate it, and then they want something else 5 minutes later because they're hungry. No, they're not. They're bored, and they want to eat. And so I knew that she had already had a snack earlier. I said, listen, you already had a snack. Don't worry about it. I'll get you one later. Because I knew she wouldn't ask me if she needed a snack, because we have a cabinet underneath where it's lower, where the kind of mediocre, average, subpar snacks are. But when she's asking for a snack, she wants the on top of the fridge in the back where she can't get to snacks. And so she asked me, I said no, we moved along. I go back to reading my book and enjoying my quiet afternoon. And then all of a sudden I hear, I can't crash. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I go and walk around into the kitchen where she has gotten out a bar stool from our island, and she's standing on the bar stool. And even though she has, for a kid, she's got like T-Rex arms. And so she's swiping to get it. She's knocked all of the things that are on the front side of the refrigerator off and cannot get to the good stuff in the back. And everything she's knocked off has now gone all over the kitchen floor. Now, I had a couple choices. I could immediately yell, reprimand her, take away all of the things, put her in timeout, and call it a day. But chose a different route. Walk in, I'm like, hey, what you doing? I can't get it. And she's just sobbing. And I'm staying calm because I'm not, nothing's too tumultuous in this scenario for me because I know I can reach the snack if I want one. And so I'm just sitting there watching and go, I realize I have an opportunity to watch her work. So I said, you know what? How would you handle this to be able to get the snack? And I have a seat at the table and just watch. And so for the next 15 minutes, she begins to try to figure out, and it's totally rocked her worldview. She was expecting punishment, taking away things, get through the punishment, and eventually get the snack I want. So, nope, just I want to watch you. How would you figure this out? So she's working for the next 10, 15 minutes, trying to figure out things. Eventually, she gets to one of our step stools that's about this high, puts it on top of the bar stool, and I'm a good enough parent that I'm not going to let her fall, okay? Before you're like, did you know? And so, but she's a smart kid. She doesn't try to step on it first. She touches it with her hands to see how stable it is, realizes that's a horrible idea. So then she just plops herself down on the floor and starts weeping. I'm going to get a snack. This is the worst. Because in your life and mine, we wish that our biggest problem was getting a snack. So I stop her. I said, baby, I want you to pause. It's okay. Is there any other way that you could get this snack? So for the next about, 60 seconds or more, she begins, you could see the wheels turning in her head. She goes, you could get it for me. I said, why can I get it for you? She said, because I can't do it on my own. This is why the story of Jesus is so important. This is why the coming of the Messiah that takes away the sins of the world is so vital, is so critical, of eternal consequence to you and I. And in the throes of this holiday season, it's going to get really easy to get consumed by watching the game and watching a movie and tuning out everybody and just kind of hop onto a device and swap, and that will be your pixel perfect Christmas. But what if for a moment we could dial things back a bit and disengage from those things and look and get in tune with what truly matters for you and I? What is so important in the account and the story of Jesus? Because if we can, we'll realize the very same thing that Albert Tate would tell us, and that's this: that there are times Jesus wants you to do the math so you will know it can't be done in your own strength. See, that is why Jesus came. That's why this account of Jesus and his coming is so vital for you and I, because we can't do it on our own. And no matter if it's during the times when Jesus came, or whether it's 100 years before, or even thousands of years later today, when we bump up against the story of Jesus, there's a rub. Do I believe it and will I follow, or will I try a different way and do it on my own? See, the reality is we can't do it on our own. At every turn, we will, as we hit against this story, go, is Jesus someone that I will follow and obey? Which leads us to our big idea for today. And if you don't hear anything else, my prayer is that you hear this. That we will, if we're going to follow and believe the story, we will place our trust in God's miraculous power in times of trouble and times of doubt. Because I would assume that if somebody's going to follow Jesus, they go, I'll totally follow Jesus when things are going great. Like when I get that new job, praise the Lord. When I pull into that front parking spot in a holiday season, #blessed. Like when my kids did everything right and didn't fight during a time of a family function, the good news. Thank you, God. But when things don't go well, when things don't go the way that we had hoped, will we still say, God, you are faithful. God, you are good. God, I'm going to trust in your miraculous, eternal movement, even when things aren't the way that I had hoped. You see, that's going to be the very nature of the account that we're going to look at today. And to be able to understand the account of Jesus coming, we actually have to go back 700 years before he ever arrived, where some people, even then, were bumping into the life and movement of Jesus before he was ever here. And they had the very same choice that you and I have 2,000 years after his movement here on earth. If you have a Bible, I'd love for you to turn over to Isaiah chapter 7. Isaiah chapter 7, it's in the Old Testament of the Bible. The Bible's broken up into Old and New Testament. And so you can turn over there. If you don't have a Bible, good news, we give them away for free out in the lobby, that Get Connected area that's right there with all the wood wall. You can stop by there, grab a new Bible, or you can go to forefrontchurch.info every single week. If you just swipe and go to the notes section, we put all the notes there right there for you so you can follow along and be engaged in what's happening, take some notes and email them back to yourself. And in this account, as we travel back, I'm going to be giving you, and for some of you guys, you might not be ready for it, an 8th century history lesson. And so for some of you, you're like, I did not wake up and battle through the rain and get my kids together to get an 8th century history lesson today. Just tell me Jesus loves me and let's move on. And I get it. And so some of you, you're like, history? Yes, let's do this. I am kind of in between. There's days where I'm like, yay, history. And there's other times like, can I just watch explosions and like guns and stuff? And so the good news is this history account has a little bit of battle and things. It has some intense moments. It has some moments where people go behind each other's backs and a little bit of drama. And so it's everything like all the reality shows you watch, only set in the 8th century. And I would also suggest that before we get into this passage, that none of you ever, if you're going, it's still in your childbearing years, do not name any of your children some of these names because they're absolutely difficult to pronounce and your kids will get joked in school. Isaiah chapter 7, starting in verse 1. Here we go. When Ahaz, son of Jotham, I told you, the son of Uzziah was the king of Judah, King Rezin of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, so again, king of Israel, marched up to fight against Jerusalem, but they could not overpower it. Verse 2, now the house of David was told, Aram has allied itself with Ephraim, so the hearts of Ahaz and his people were shaken as the trees of the forest were shaken by the wind. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, because the first time that I had heard about this account and this story, I was like, what does this have to do with 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus? And the manger and the wise men and all of that. We're going to get to that. But to be able to do that, we need to look at our main characters and kind of walk this out. The good news is, for those of you guys who don't like history, we have some visuals. So here we go. You guys ready? Half of you are. You're unsure. Here we go. So we have 3 main characters in this account. We have Ahaz, Rezin, and Pekah. These guys were all kind of buddies. They were all together. They were in their different places where they ruled. They got along. It was kind of a handshake of like, hey, we'll look out for you. You look out for us. We're going to help you with the things that you need. If some people try to come battle you, you know what? We're going to have your back. We got you. That they would trade and do things and they would care for one another. But like any good friendship, when something happens, then there's a wrench thrown in, it can break everything up. And there was this king named Solomon, who during that time was also kind of a part of all this, and he died. And we know this from current culture, that anytime there's a change in leadership, things don't always go the way that they had planned. And so as King Solomon dies, there is a rift in the friendship. And so you have Ahaz, who's over here all by himself, and then you have these 2 friends who go, let's kind of form an alliance. Let's kind of make things happen. And those 2 friends did not like that Ahaz was on his own and some of the things that he was doing. So they said, you know what? We don't like you a whole lot. We want to put you to death. And all the people. And so for some of you, you're like, yay, Braveheart-esque swords, knives, and all that. And so they would just stop at nothing, building an army, gathering other people that would be their allies to go take out their once friend, Ahaz. Now, the question that you would and I would ask is, why? Like, why would you want to go kill not only your friend, but then all the people that are around them? And any time that there's a rift like this in a friendship, there's something below the surface. Somebody's come in and said some things or done some things that have caused some drama. And that's when we enter into the picture. This Assyrian king, Tiglath. Again, don't name your kid that. And Tiglath in this has basically been somebody who, if you maybe had somebody that you look up to, somebody that you go, man, I want to be like them, and you kind of have done things for them and share it because you want to just like have that friendship cultivated, that's this right here. And Ahaz has started, so much so, admiring the king, that the temple that's in their town, he has begun dismantling it, the temple where everyone would go to worship God, and not only selling things off to be able to give that money to the Assyrian king, but he's also given him these gifts that were in God's temple. And these guys are like, what are you doing? This guy's going to be your demise. Why would you be so dumb? And anytime you and I are doing something dumb, we would hope that we would have a friend or somebody that kind of swoops in and goes, hey, I love you, don't be dumb. Or, as we say it here in a more kind way, someone that loves God and loves you, but loves God what? More than you. So they can say the things that you need to hear. Which then enters into the picture the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah comes in, he says, Ahaz, we're friends, right? There's some guys that you know want to kill you. They don't like you. They don't like what you're doing. They definitely don't like this relationship because it's not healthy for you. But I don't want you to worry. I don't want you to fret at all because I have really good news. God has told me that these guys, they're not a legitimate threat. You don't have to worry about them at all. And Ahaz goes, you don't understand. We're outnumbered. We're outmanned. We're outweaponed. Like they are going to kill us. Isaiah goes, no, that is not what you really need to worry about. That threat that's over there, that is not your biggest problem. And this is why the story and the coming of Jesus is so important. Because as we're about to see here in a little bit, and he's going to unpack the coming of Jesus, you and I sometimes see exterior problems and we focus so much on those that we miss the situation that's going right inside the inner man and the inner woman. And you see what Isaiah shares with them is, hey, listen, they are not your problem. What's really your problem is this right here. You're trusting this guy, and you've left God out of the picture completely. So much so that you're stealing from him. So much so that you're selling off things from the temple to please this guy, when that is not, this is your concern right here. And you know what? You either need to stand in faith or you won't be able to stand at all. You need to choose one. And you have to choose. And Isaiah tells him, I would suggest that you not choose that earthly king and instead choose God. So the question that I am led to ask and that we should be asking in our heads is, why trust a king instead of God? Why trust something that we could see rather than the unseen? And for that, I would say that we need a little illustration from my handy helper here, the tennis ball. How many of you have ever been around like a baby or infant and you've played that game where you show them something and you hide it, right? And it blows their mind. We did this with all of our girls where I'd be like, hey, you see the ball, and you watch their head, which their heads are always much bigger than their bodies. They grow into their head, so you watch their head just swiveling around. And they're looking at it, you do it, and then all of a sudden you hide it behind your back, and then you go, oh, and then they're like, they're looking around like, what Harry Potter sorcery is this? In their minds, they're like, what has happened to the ball? Now, for you and I, that doesn't fly. You see, if I were to have him here and do all this stuff and then hide it behind my back and pull my hands out, you guys would immediately know the ball is behind what? My back. The ball is back there. Why? And there's this lesson of object permanence that we don't realize early on in life. But as we get older, we realize that that object that we cannot see is still there. Here's the problem. As we get older, we still act much like those infants and toddlers when it comes to God. We look around and then problems happen and things arise and we go, we open up our online banking and we're like, oh my gosh. And we look at the bottom line and we freak out and we trust what we can see rather than who is unseen. We get to our job and things don't work out the way that we planned and things go a little bit awry and we go, oh my goodness, should I look for another job? And we freak out and we get stressed and everything else. And we go, we trust what we can see instead of he who is unseen. Same thing happens for you guys in middle school and high school. You're thinking and you're just like, oh my goodness, relationships and new job and all this stuff. And I just go, man, you have no idea. Like all of that will be nothing in like 2 more years. Just wait it out. But we can see it. And so we want to deal with it instead of trusting he who is unseen. And this is Ahaz's problem. This is our problem, that we trust in what we can see. And when it doesn't make sense and we're given the option to trust God, we go out searching for what we can see rather than trusting him who is unseen. And Isaiah tells him right off the bat, he shares with him, hey, listen, you need to make a choice. And if you do not stand firm in your faith, not only will things go bad, but you will not stand at all. It will be to your detriment and your doom. Which is why, as believers, we would say, you know what I want to do is I want to place my trust in God's power in the times when things are difficult, in the times when things don't work out, in the moments where I have doubts and insecurities. And I would say, venture to say for all of us, we go, you know what, I think I want that. The reason that I'm here, even if you're unsure about God, even if you're testing the waters, is you go, man, I hope that if God is real, I want to put all of my trust in Him. I want Him to take care of me. I want something new than what I've always done. But here's the rub, and I want to encourage you to this end, that God is not going to do a new thing in your story until He disrupts the old thing from your story. Those moments that you just go, man, and this happened, we're about to approach it, everybody knows it, we're going to get into the new year, and everybody's like, I'm going to be fit, I'm going to work out, I'm going to be that high school reunion, I'm going to be 185 pounds lighter, I'm going to be skinny jeans, here I come. Like, we're on it, right? And then what? The mid-January happens, and it's like ghost town, like there's tumbleweeds, nobody's at the gym. Everybody's at Buffalo Wild Wings, eating, just slapping it up. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like it's good. But those moments where you go, man, but I wanted something new. Why is something new not happening? Well, the new thing can only happen when the old thing exits. But we think that we could keep doing the old thing and get new results. And so Ahaz is thinking, I want to conquer this. I want to do this. I want God to do it. But man, I don't want to do anything different. 700 years before the time of Jesus, and he's getting ready to meet up with the very coming of Jesus, and he has a choice, just like you and I do, because God disrupts our story. One of the first things that happens that we learn when God disrupts your story and mine is He gives you and I opportunities to see His movement. He shares, and Isaiah, through the prophet Isaiah, he shares with him, said, again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz. He says, ask the Lord for a sign. God's telling him, ask Him for anything. He said, whether the deepest depths or the highest heights, shoot for the moon, bro. You can tell God, here is how you can show me that you are moving and that you are real. And if you and I got that request, like, God, we're just sitting at home and all of a sudden, and I imagine it's like James Earl Jones' voice, like, Jason. I'll be like, yes, Lord. And he's like, tell me. And then it comes down, you can tell me any way to prove that I'm real. And I'd be like, why don't you write down what my future looks like in cotton candy script across my ceiling? And he'd be like, do it. And I'm like, all right, then I know. I'm going to totally do that. You might be like, that's a little weird. Yeah, it's weird, but that's where I'm at. He had any opportunity to share any way he wanted to. Here's his response. But Ahaz said, I will not ask. I will not put the Lord to the test. The same guy that was selling off God's temple got real spiritual when God said, I'll do whatever to prove it to you. You go, oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get in your way, God. And God's like, you've already been in my way. You've already been doing things that you knew you shouldn't. And now all of a sudden you want to get all Jesus-y? Maybe you've been there in the moments where everything was going the way that you had hoped and you're like, I've got this. The moment it doesn't, we're like, whew, I need some church. I need some Jesus. I got to get this together. God's like, we're not going to play games like that. I'm glad you're listening, but that's not the way it works. You see, God is going to disrupt things and show us opportunities for His movement. The question I ask in looking at the story of Ahaz in this account is, what have I ignored from God and missed His movement because I thought I could do it on my own? What have you missed that God was trying to show you because you thought you knew better? If I look through my life, I imagine there are plenty of moments that I missed because I thought I had it all together. Like I thought I could do it on my own. And Ahaz has an opportunity and he misses it because he is just so stubborn. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to worry about it. Like God wants to talk to you and you're just missing it completely. But here's what I know about when God disrupts our story. Your stubbornness and mine cannot derail His plan. And that's good news for us. That no matter how stubborn we are, and don't elbow the person next to you, That no matter how difficult we are, no matter how much we're that brick wall, that God can still work and move and do great things. We cannot derail the movement of God. This is what God shared with him in that moment through his prophet Isaiah. He said, "Hear now, house of David, is it not enough to try the patience of humans?" He's reminding him, you have people that want to kill you, yet you're not listening to any of that. He said, but now you're going to try the patience of God too? He said, you know what? Therefore, the Lord will give you a sign. You don't want a sign? God doesn't care. He's going to give you one anyway. Now he's going to convince you and share and open up a glimpse of how good God is. To let you know it's going to be all right. That this coming of Jesus and this movement and those people, there is a bigger thing happening. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel. He will be eating curds and honey when he knows enough to reject wrong and right. And so he begins to note that he's going to be about age like 4 or 5 in this moment. And before the boy knows enough to reject wrong and choose right, the land of the two kings, the ones that are trying to kill him and everybody else, those guys and the kings that you dread will be laid to waste. Hey, don't worry. Those guys are not a legitimate threat. They're going to die. Jesus is coming. Do you trust me? And Ahaz, even in that moment, has a choice. God was trying to show him something. He was stubborn. God said, don't worry. I get that you're stubborn. I'm going to show you anyway. Because I believe in you. I believe the best in you. I'm going to let you into a glimpse that you wouldn't know otherwise. Those guys, before Jesus is even through the elementary ages, those guys in their kingdoms are going to fall. And Jesus is coming. The one that you've heard about. The one that will save humanity and take away the sins of the world. Good is coming. Trust in him. You see what Ahaz failed to realize, that we now have hindsight in 2020 and can see it, is that when God disrupts your story, it always points towards Jesus. It's not going to point you towards anything or anyone else except for him. This beautiful movement where the sins of all mankind are taken away, the slate is wiped clean for you and I, and we get to walk into beautiful newness of life and life to the full. But Ahaz wasn't going to listen. And this is the hard part of the movement of Jesus. When we bump up against the story of the Savior of the world, we have a choice to accept it or reject it. And Ahaz chose to reject it, which is why he's warned by the very prophet. The Lord will bring on you and your people and on the house of your father a time unlike any since Ephraim broke away from Judah. He will bring, of all the things that Ahaz was afraid of, these guys are over here, I'm by myself, I'm trusting this king, I've neglected God, I've sold away his temple, I've done all this stuff, there's drama, there's going to be bloodshed, it's going to be awful. God, why have you done this? Why have you forsaken me? I don't want to tempt you. Hey, you know what? It's going to come to ruin, and you know who's going to do it? The very king that you've been trusting. The very person that you thought would float your boat will be the very person that capsizes it, because you thought you could do it on your own. You see, that's a heavy warning for every single one of us. It's a beautiful warning, though, because then we get to hear it without having to experience it. Hey, that thing that leads you away from God, instead of focusing on the movement, life, teachings, and story of Jesus, that thing will be your demise unless you abandon it and follow him. And Ahaz goes, no, I think I know better. And it was ultimately his demise. His kingdom crumbled. But I love the beauty of redemption when a generation shifts hands. You see, in the process, his son Hezekiah stepped into his role and watched that dad had done the wrong thing. Watched that dad had gone down a road that wasn't okay. Instead, he goes, you know what? I'm not going to do what dad did. I'm going to change the story. And it's told that Hezekiah did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. You see, your story in the chaos, in the hurt, in the going away from God does not have to be the end. You and I can have a brand new beginning that can start today. And we can make that proclamation to say, you know what? I'm going to place my trust in God and put my faith in God and His miraculous power, not just in the good moments where everything's great, but I'm going to trust in the story of Jesus today, even in my trouble and even in my doubt, because the only way that I can make it is by trusting Him. Back to that refrigerator that we visited in the beginning. Had another day where I was off, and sure enough, 4-year-old comes running, Daddy, very serious. Want a snack? Can you get me a snack? See, I'll get you a snack. Just give me a few minutes. I was in the middle of reading this book. I had music on in the background. It was one of those moments where you're just like in the zone. It was so good. I was like, why'd you interrupt it? Who let you live here? So I was like, give me like 2 minutes. I'm almost done. And as I'm finishing up, I hear more racket in the kitchen. And I'm like, Jesus, take the wheel. We're going to walk in here and see what's going on. And I walk in, and this little 4-year-old is cleaning up the kitchen. Like, cleaning up stuff. I know, that's like, so hold on tight, parents. There's a time where that like actually happened. She is cleaning up, tidying up stuff that she had made a mess of before. And I was like, be still, my heart. What is, I said, Kinley, what are you doing? So I'm cleaning up. I was like, I know you asked for a snack. Why didn't? And so I took a moment to probe because I wanted to understand why she didn't try to do what she did before, which is climb up, make a mess, want me to. And so, why didn't you climb up and try to get a snack this time? Well, because I need you to help me. And I went, oh, you're learning. You're learning, even though you've messed up, you're learning that there's a better way. For you and I, as we bump into the story of Jesus and the Christmas story, my prayer is that you'll learn that there's a better way. They were learning it 700 years before He ever stepped on to this earth. 2,000 years later, we're learning it too. What will you choose? His miraculous power, or to try to do it on your own? My prayer is that you'll choose Him, and that can start today.
Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you, or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab, as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in. And we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you, and we'll see you then.